Padres fans, we got some bombshell news to talk about in the hot stove realm. Potential loss of another Padre up the 5 freeway. Let's go ahead and break it all down on this episode of Padres Digest. What's going on, everybody? I'm Christian Pedersen. Thank you very much for tuning into the show that has to play the little brother all the time to the Dodgers, who just keep having their moments, don't they? Good grief. I'm done with them. Let's talk about some Padres stuff, but it's going to have to do with the Dodgers, so maybe I'm not done with them. I don't know. We're going to break it all down. Specifically going to talk about Robert Suarez, the Padres closer. If you want to talk about him, great. Drop a comment. If not, drop a comment on something else that you want to hear a video on. We got plenty of off season to fill. Want to fill it with whatever you guys want to hear about. And as always, if you want to hit the subscribe button, I will not be mad at you one bit. Let's talk about this headline. I'm literally sick from the Dodgers, and I'm staying up late watching games that are epic, and I love them, but I hate them. Robert Suarez, potentially going to be a Dodger. We are in a time period where I think that there's two default assumptions at work here. The one is that the Dodgers are always down to spend, and two is that headlines got a headline. Like, you got to get content out there. I get that. I'm doing that too by reacting and responding to this. But it is, if you tug at the string a little bit, it's not the most outlandish idea to think that Robert Suarez is going to opt out of what's left on his deal and move on to potentially be a Dodger, and that the Dodgers want to get in on this guy. So he's right. Here's the numbers right here. $8 million a year. He's got a player opt-out. He's 35, or is going to be 35 this season. You can be a reliever until you're 40 if you're, LaTroy Hawkins. But he's closer to the end than he is to the beginning. And with that kind of an opt-out, you would assume that he's going to maybe try and do one more big 2 or 3 year thing with the team, try and maximize his money there. The total numbers pretty solid. Sub-3 ERA, 40 saves. He had the yips for a hot second in the middle of the season, so took some of those losses, knocked up his ERA a little bit. So, okay, there's the fact. Now here's the reaction, the response, the editorialization. Easy enough for me to say, hard enough for you to hear. I'm curious what you guys think in terms of, is Robert Suarez, and oh my gosh, if we lose him, this is a bad thing. Not going to say a bad thing, but if we lose Mason Miller versus Robert Suarez, I feel like there's a big difference there. If we lose certain guys versus others, there's a small difference. I think we can live without Robert Suarez. Here's the bullpen right now. And these names are intentionally small, given just to say that, this is not a situation where we only have the one guy. And I am not saying at the other end of that spectrum that, I get that David Morgan and Wandy Peralta and some of these Yukis, there are levels to this thing. But that's a pretty good bullpen that, if you remove Robert Suarez, I don't think becomes necessarily all that much end of the worldy or worse. Obviously, it's going to not be somebody that you just have a minor leaguer ready and waiting, but the list you see right now, and apologies for leaving you on these small names, as always for the phone viewers, that list does not include the random, minor league guys that are going to start to fill out the back end of that, because every year there's going to be a guy or two coming up throwing hard, throwing well, give them a 20-game stretch, send him back down, yada, yada, yada. We have the numbers. I think we also potentially are verging on a situation where we don't have to be married to the traditional sense of the ninth is the save. And some of you have disagreed with me, and some of you have. I see some split stuff on this, so drop a comment. But the high leverage innings type of vibes of having either Morihone or Mason Miller to throw the big one where, say the heart of the order is coming up in the 8th, and then the 9th, someone else. I don't think the Padres have two excellent dudes there, a righty and a lefty who throw very different styles of baseball, and I think could be twin sons of a closing back end thing, and then you're trying to fill out the rest of it. So not that Suarez is dead weight, but I don't think the Padres need a closer with the guys that they have. So I would be curious about what's the trickle down. The bad is obviously we lose Robert Suarez. Going back to that $8 million a year, I will jump over to this summary. As always, thank you to Talking Friars for doing great TLDRs. But there's an Athletic article kind of summarizing what the estimated cost is going to be for all of the Padres free agents this season. Looking there, Robert Suarez, that 4-year deal, $80 million. But O'Hearn at 2 years, 24. I get that it might not be a direct one-to-one of if Robert Suarez opts out of $8 million, that creates $8 million. But if Robert Suarez opts out of $8 million that was already kind of accounted for in the Padres' ability to be hey, we were going to, if his contract came due, we were going to be able to pay. And there has to be some wiggle room that opens up. That I would then look at that O'Hearn estimation of $12 million a year and be is losing Robert Suarez and replacing him with a minor leaguer and keeping Ryan O'Hearn to be our full-time first baseman an okay trade-off? Yes, we've had the greatest bullpen. Yes, what has it got us? Having a really good bullpen versus the greatest, but if that gets us a first baseman who's going to hit 18 to 25 home runs and have a little pop and have a little I don't know, it seems like maybe, yes, the headline of losing, this is never something you want to see. You don't want that. I don't want this. I'm not saying, this is not the summary of this video is, I'm not saying let's ditch Suarez, make him an offer. Sure, maybe, I don't know. But I'm saying if it's Suarez leaving opens up opportunities for offense, let's hope it's not the Dodgers. But even if it is the Dodgers, how much further away does that get us from beating? Not that I can rationalize and get my head around being okay entirely with him walking away if it unlocks our ability to sign back some offense. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment. Let me know also, just as always, anything else that you ever want to see a video on all off season. Thank you guys for tuning in, and if you want to hit the subscribe button, it would be much appreciated. If not, no worries. Talk to you guys next time.